Alright, Arrow fans, time to take a look at the final episode of the day, which is Honor Thy Fathers. The scene opens with Oliver strolling into City Hall to discover that a greater amount of Chase's feelings are being upset. A SWAT official approaches Oliver and illuminates him that Oliver's office has a dubious bundle and that he needs to clear. However, Oliver makes sense of it's from Chase and goes to examine. Oliver opens up the box and finds a skeleton covered in concrete inside. Soon thereafter, John reveals Oliver that the body has a place with the neighborhood legislator who vanished 15 years prior. While John attempts to make sense of the politician's assassination with Chase/Oliver, Oliver urges the team to watch out for the different crooks getting discharged from jail since they were arraigned by Chase. Felicity additionally says that she's having an issue discovering Oliver's child, as his mom did an excellent activity covering up. In a flashback, Oliver returned in a little plane to Lian Yu. Dinah reveals to Quentin that she had the option to make sense of who the legislator's executioner was, and Quentin doesn't appear to be excited by her discoveries. Theo returns to town at Oliver's solicitation, showing as Quentin shows up to disclose to Oliver the awful news. Oliver had executed the lawmaker 15 years prior. Oliver believes that Chase surrounded his dad and advises Quentin and Dinah to discover some proof to excuse him. In flashback, Oliver discloses to Anatoly that he made a beeline for the NU to give him a spread throughout the previous 5 years. He discovers Deathstroke's cover on the beach and gets a bolt through its eyes. Rhaenys goes to Quentin that his preliminary date for care of his little girl. He urges Quentin to be there for him. Felicity breaks down the solid and makes sense of where he was slaughtered. So Dougal and Oliver go to examine. In the meantime, Diana and Chris stake out Derek Sampson, the Kentfield tournament mobster from prior this season, who as of late got let out of jail. Dougal and Oliver walk directly into a snare. Chase smothers the floor from under them, locks them inside, and afterwards begin pouring cement into the opening they're caught in. Fortunately, Felicity diverts Curtis and Diana to the area and they get out in time. Oliver discovers that Sampson is working with Chase, that Sampson utilized the interruption of Oliver about getting covered in cement to take substance supplies utilized by Chase's dad to weaponize tuberculosis. Simply at that point, Quentin makes sense of the connection among Chase and the councilman. They were both spoken to by a similar lawyer. Oliver takes the lawyer to be interrogated, however Chase gets the lawyer first. The lawyer gives Oliver a USB drive, politeness of Chase, and says he can't utter a word since Chase is an insane person. Obviously, Theo likewise gets so much serious on occasion and compromises him. In a flashback, Oliver shows Anatoly Yenyu's little burial ground and clarifies this is the reason he needs to wear the hood. Anatoly cautions Oliver that a bit of material won't spare his loved ones from getting injured and approaches who will pay for his wrongdoings. Oliver needs to demolish the USB drive, while Rosie calls him Sampson's area. After Oliver leaves, Leah takes to get her the USB drive since she realizes that she's going to watch it. Sampson and his men are stacking up the remainder of the synthetic compounds, expected to do Chase's arrangement. The Team Arrow shows up to stop him. Despite the fact that Team Arrow brings in a few of Sampson's men, Sampson himself escapes. Subsequently, Oliver finds that Theo watched the tape, with security film indicating Robert and the councilman contending, and afterward the councilman falling into a tank of cement. While Oliver and Theo are entirely disturbed by the disclosure, no one attempts to excuse it as a mishap. Theo calls to attention that Robert has about everything to attempt to cover it up, and arrives at the resolution that their folks are bad individuals. In the flashback, Anatoly and Oliver go to Oliver's getaway from plan. Angela prepares some anglers to go to Lian Yu, and afterward, Oliver stand out for them with a campfire. Angela additionally gives Oliver phony whiskers and hairpiece, so somebody will accept he had the option to trim his hair/facial hair on the off chance he was generally caught on the island. Lucy and Curtis investigate the synthetic compounds and found that Chase could make an amazing substance operator 1,000 times more incredible than what his dad made. Oliver needs all hands at hand. Yet Renee and Quentin are away in the light of the fact that Renee is going nuts about affirming in court to get his little girl back. Renee figures it will damage his little girl, and Quentin goes to him that he gets an opportunity to prove his girl's life by being there for him. Oliver watches Robert's last encounter in the Arrow Cave and discloses to Felicity that he could hardly imagine how he never understood that his father was a terrible individual. Felicity calls to attention that Robert enlivened Oliver to spare the city, and that possibly it's the ideal opportunity for Oliver to quit satisfying his dad's desires and begin satisfying his own heritage. Simply at that point, Felicity discovers that Samson is holding Chase's synthetic concoction in applied sciences building named after Oliver's dad. Group Arrow meets the structure, with Oliver putting on the Green Arrow outfit on Indeed. Samson is at the housetop with the synthetic substances. However, Prometheus goes against Oliver in a flight of stairs. While Team Arrow stops Samson's men, Oliver and Prometheus get into a tremendous battle. Chase calls attention to how comparative they are, and Oliver gets in Chase's head when Chase raises his dad's inheritance. Oliver says he discovered that Chase's dad needed to abandon Chase since he's crazy. Chase needs to maintain the heritage of a man who abandoned him. Prometheus puts down his blade and requests that Oliver slaughter him, yet Oliver takes him out. Group Arrow acclimates to the Arrow Cave to celebrate at last catching Chase. Oliver gives Thea a video Robert made her years prior. In a flashback, Oliver constructs his blades when he gets shot by a dart. Turns out the Cobra followed Oliver until he knew. Rennie disappears at third hearing, and along these lines loses his shot at rejoining with his little girl. Thea watches the video made by her dad. Robert says that Thea is more grounded than Oliver and that she'll have to watch out for Oliver to assist him with transversing life. Oliver says they have to carry on with their own lives as opposed to battling with their folks' inheritance. The following day at a question and answer session, Oliver says that Robert Queen did in truth kill the councilman. Oliver Queen says that Robert spared Oliver's life almost 10 years back with the goal that he could serve Star City. Chase watches a public interview from his cell in Argus. Yet he begins to grin as though there's a whole other world. So anyway, let's take a look at some trivia from this episode. Lucy jokes about Oliver and John reenacted the paleo version of her favorite scene from Witness, before Curtis describes it with the star Harrison Ford getting stuck under corn in a barn silo. This is Thea's first appearance since fighting Fire with Fire. The title of this episode is similar to the title of the Season 1 episode, Honor Thy Father. We're talking with Thea about the revelation of Chase's true identity. Often noticed that it makes Isabel Rochev seem like a bad joke. This episode reveals that Oliver's rescue and pilot was planned by Anatoly, only providing a castaway to look for him so that no one would question if Oliver ever left the island. Thea watches the video Robert Queen made for her, which was seen briefly in a flashback from The Return. Robert accidentally killing the councilman was first mentioned back in The Undertaking, and was told more about in flashback sequence as the prime motivation for working on the list. When Anatoly and Oliver say goodbye to each other in the flashback on Leanne knew. Anatoly says goodbye with sounds like Ni dumai ploho obo mina, and Oliver responds, how about prognost? Anatoly says in Russian, don't think badly of me, and Oliver says, how about strength, as a parting word. And then finally, let's take a look at some goofs. To be considered concrete, a mixture should include coarse aggregate, which increases the density. Thus, it should not flow as it did when trapping Oliver and John. At 13 minutes and 56 seconds, when Oliver and John are rescued a concrete trap, the circular section that fell out of the metal ceiling floats. So I think this is a pretty good episode, and hey, it looks like things are looking up for Team Arrow. However, I don't think things are going to go quite as well in the next 2 episodes, but we'll see. So, yeah. So overall, I give Honor Thy Fathers 4 arrowheads out of 5. When we tune in more as we take a look at the penultimate episode of the season, Missing. So until then, in the words of Oliver Queen, you have failed this city.